Suspend your disbelief, your rational, analytic mind, just for a minute, just for the length of this podcast. What if all I am about to tell you is the truth? What if the information you will be provided is from a divine source? Just for this time, I am your Axis Mundi. Consider this podcast your channel, your second opinion. When I do a reading, something larger than myself is working through me. So ask what you wish. This is your channel, your doorway to the divine. Well, welcome to John's Tarot, and welcome to you from wherever in the world you may be. Welcome from the United States. Welcome to you from Alabama.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
California.
You are talking to a man who has laughed in the face of death, sneered at doom, and chuckled at catastrophe.
So, Wisconsin.
Try to relax. This will feel a little weird.
And in the last 30 days, I've reached out to a lot of different countries, to Mexico.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
To Ireland.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, I can't believe it, but China.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
To Ontario, Canada.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
To Russia.
Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard.
And to the UK.
Now, don't make any more mistakes.
So I just have fun with those sound effects. That's why I like to do them. Welcome to John's Tarot. I want to talk a little bit this week. I have a guest, and we're going to do an interview. I want to talk a little bit this week about last week's podcast. Last week, I talked about my experience with tarot, how I got here, how my tarot experience has morphed. And I got quite a few hits on that on Facebook and on Twitter, Twitch. Anyway, my old stuff, I took down I did this for about 3 years under John's Tarot podcast. If you're interested in finding any of my old material, it's still on Spotify, John's Tarot podcast. And then my newer stuff that I started up after the election is just there under John's Tarot. I noticed as I goofed around this week and I looked around like on Reddit and like that tarot reading or the ability to be a little psychic is really not, it's an uncommon, it's an uncommon skill, but there's a lot of us doing it. And if you're getting this on Facebook, this refers to anybody who's listening there too. I would like to, we're all spread out. We're all spread out throughout the country. I would say out of 100,000 people, there's 5 or 10 of us that have this kind of ability. So it's kind of an uncommon skill. I would like to start a little community, especially here on Facebook. So please leave a comment, and let's start a little community of readers and of just interested parties. If you're just interested in joining and starting a little community of psychics and readers, I think this would be a good place to do it. Let's go ahead and do it. We'll do it on Facebook. I am looking to create community. I talked about that, skill or talent. If you would like readings, I talked about last week that I'm trying to do stuff that is more socially impactful. If you have particular questions you would like answered, why don't you leave that for me too? And you can leave those on Facebook under the comments, or you could leave it on YouTube. You can leave it there under the comments, or you can send me an email. Also, if you would like your town mentioned in the intro. I don't have the ability to know what town everybody is from or what state. States I've been doing pretty good, but cities I don't have the ability to do. What cities? If you like your city mentioned in the intro, go ahead and send me a send me a little email or leave a note or leave a comment, and I'll mention it. What else did I want to talk about? Submitting questions. If you have something that is socially important or a question you would like to submit to the tarot, and something that affects all of us. I'm not going to do a specific political questions with John's Tarot as we go forward. It's going to be an interesting time, but I am going to talk about how to survive the next 4 years, because that's what's really important. But if you have questions specific, submit them, leave them in the comments, and I'll go ahead and I'll take a shot at answering. And we'll ask the tarot. If nothing else, we certainly will get some interesting answers. Another question. I'm doing this live on Twitch, and I'm here every week at 10 o'clock to do live readings. If you would like a live reading, you'll find me on Twitch at 10 o'clock Pacific time on Fridays. However, my question to you is, should I start doing this live on Facebook? So leave me a note. Let me know what you think. These are all questions I'm posing to the audience. And then my final thing is, although I'm not really trying to promote myself as an individual tarot reader, this is my last week where I will be offering free readings to people in the recovery communities, the drug and alcohol recovery community. If you have a question on drug and alcohol, go ahead, submit it to me, send me an email, and I'll send you out a quick reading. I found divination very helpful in my own recovery. I'm like 35 years sober, so something's working. So this is the last week I'll be offering free readings. If you would like a more extensive reading, we could do it over the internet. I have a program called StreamYard, and we could connect, and you can make an appointment with me, and we could sit down and do some readings for you, and work out some specific questions, if that is what you would like. If not, don't worry about it. This week I have an interview. What was interesting, one of the interesting things about this interview is with Chris Mason from Path to Inner Wellness. And you can find Chris at one word, pathtoinnerwellness.com. And he is in Bristol, England. So one of the things that was really interesting to me in doing this interview was that I'm doing it live in England, right here. This is all in my home. This is all done in my home. This isn't done in any kind of studio. So I was able to do a live interview all the way from England. So if you're out there and you would like to be interviewed on John's Tarot, apparently with the internet, distance is no obstacle. So you just go ahead and send me a note, and we'll set up an interview for you. And a little bit about Chris. He has he's in Brighton, England, and he has discovered and implemented some unique therapies and treatments for anxiety, severe anxiety, debilitating anxiety, I hope I pronounced that well, and obsessive-compulsive disease. And that is what today's interview is going to be about. Post-interview, I'll do a couple of readings. I got an idea for a couple of readings, and we'll do a couple of readings. So and if anybody's out there who wants a free reading, that's the time you could submit it at any time. The chat room is open. The chat window is open. I'll get it, and we'll do the reading after the interview. Or if you have questions during the interview, you can enter stuff into the chat window, and I'll respond. I'm right here. And let's get on with the interview. Well, welcome to John's Tarot. This week on John's Tarot, I have Chris Mason from the Path to Inner Wellness. Path to Inner Wellness, and you can be contacted at Chris at pathtoinnerwellness.com. And Chris is going to talk to us today about recovering from life anxiety, but it's more like the anxiety that really restricts you in life, and obsessive-compulsive disease, OCD, that really restricts you in your life. And Chris has some unique therapy approaches that he'd like to talk to us about today. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi. I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to it.
My pleasure. I'm really glad you could join us. Like I was telling you, I was really thrilled about this interview because Chris is located in Bristol, England, And
Correct.
this is my first time doing an interview from this long of a distance. So I'm really happy about that. Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story and how you got into this?
Okay, so I pretty much as far back as I can remember, I was an anxious person. Some of my first memories of being terrified of everything, not wanting to go near blood, and anything like that. I was just full of fearful stories about the future, constantly anxious. My hands were always sweating. I would really hate it when people went to shake my hand because I just knew that their hands are going to be soaking wet from how sweaty my hands were. I struggled with anxiety throughout my childhood, and when I was about 11, I also went to a psychiatrist after a strange series of events in my head after a very minimal traumatic event happened. And I was then told that I also had OCD. So I had anxiety with OCD on top of it. So OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. So it means you're hyper focused on one thing nonstop, and it's basically there to try and make you avoid feeling anxious. So if you're constantly focusing on this one thing, it means that you're not focusing on anything else, which can kind of make you anxious. But it just doesn't help because the thing you're focusing on is normally your biggest fear. So it's just a very strange psychological tool that the unconscious mind seems to use. Um, so that followed me throughout my life until I was about 30. I remember the only times I'd ever have any sort of freedom from this would be the first few seconds after waking up. I'd wake up and my mind would be clear and I'd feel relieved. Then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 seconds later, it would just be like all these dark, horrible thoughts would come into my mind. And it could have been the same thought that I've been thinking about pretty much nonstop for the last 6 months or so. And they would last all day until I went back to sleep. And then I resorted to compulsions as well. So I start to feel really anxious, and my mind would start to tell me things like, if you don't turn that light switch on and off 5 times before you go to bed, something bad's going to happen to you or your family, which sounds obviously completely illogical and crazy, but when it's in your own head, it really does feel real. So I'd resorted to that just to try and get some sort of tiny little bit of control in my life, which I felt completely out of control of. Um, it came to when I was about 30, I had a full-blown mental breakdown. This was during COVID. I'm not sure what it was like in California, but here it was very much like you're allowed out for an hour a day to exercise. And I was just going completely insane. The weather was terrible. I've not seen my friends in months. And I was just obsessed with the thought of death. Like, what happens after death? Like, how can it just be nothing? And I was trying to like imagine just nothing and nothing. And it was just too much for me. And then fortunately, like in my darkest hour when I really needed help, I found an alternative therapist on YouTube. And I started listening to him, and what he was saying was very different to what I'd been told by conventional therapists. He was an engineer, and he said that he used his engineering brain to kind of create a blueprint of what anxiety and OCD were, and then created a framework of how to recover from it. With basically no other option but just to say, well, I need to do something to help myself. I trusted him fully, accepted what he said, and just followed the process. And then I remember after a few weeks, maybe, I was doing this course and watching videos daily and asking him questions. And then I was walking the dog, and all of a sudden I was like, what was I thinking about? I forgot what I was thinking about. And it almost scared me because it was just so unknown to me that for the last 20 odd years, all I'd done is think about the same things all the time. And I couldn't remember what I was thinking about. And then about 30 seconds later, I was like, oh, that's what I was thinking about. And then I was like it didn't even seem like that big an issue because I'd had a little break from it. And that's when I knew I was on the right path and that I should just throw myself fully into the course and try and do everything I could to recover. So now I'm thankful to say that I don't have OCD anymore. I don't have anxiety. I don't have any symptoms. My sweaty hands are completely gone. They're dry. I am relatively happy, calm, and quite optimistic. And it's still a work in progress. I'm still always trying to better myself and become more happy, more optimistic, but just a completely different world to the one I used to live in.
I had a little bit of anxiety myself during COVID. I was working ICU, and I'm not even going to tell you the things I saw.
Mm.
What are the causes? What do you think are the root causes of OCD, anxiety? Is it genetic? Is it neurochemical? What is the causes?
See, I have a very different view on it because during my recovery, I never once took medication to help. So people say, like, I know doctors often say that it's a genetic condition, and there may be a genetic aspect to it. But I can say that I managed to get rid of it without anything to alter my chemistry. So I know the brain is pretty powerful, and epigenetics, which means above genetics, is a subject I'm really fascinated in. So perhaps I actually altered my genetics and turned off OCD genes and turned on more beneficial ones. I'm really not sure. But all I know is that if someone was to say to themselves that anxiety and OCD is genetic, it's a victim story. It's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it because it's genetic. But if you were to say, but there is evidence that people get rid of it, they've got rid of it all around the world, and obviously I'm part of that evidence. So whatever is going on inside the body and inside the brain doesn't have to necessarily control your emotions and your thoughts. Um, it seems to me that anxiety is a condition that steps in when we are emotionally exhausted. So if we've gone through a very stressful period of life and our emotional battery, metaphorically, is just depleted, anxiety will step in and say, okay, we need you to back away from life and stay at home. So like anxiety and OCD almost always make people more reclusive. And the subconscious mind is saying then, in the hopes that you just stay at home, you can stop thinking, stop worrying. You don't have to care about anyone else apart from yourself, and you can just relax and recharge this emotional energy. Unfortunately, the conscious mind doesn't really understand that. So you think, why am I having all these horrific thoughts, and why is my body feeling this way? And then you also have other worries like, well, how am I going to pay the bills if I'm at home all day and I can't work? And it just ingrains the issue, makes it even worse. You worry even more, and it spirals down into in certain personality types, OCD, which is like kind of the subconscious mind just bringing in the really like the big guns to be like, look, you need to relax and stop worrying about everything. But it's just not a beneficial way of doing things.
So is I'm looking for causes. The causes of anxiety, OCD, usually some kind of traumatic events or a traumatic period of time in a person's life, and then the
Yeah,
anxiety and OCD comes as a defense mechanism.
kind of. Yeah. So there's the aspect that I just spoke about, the exhaustion. But OCD tends to come on after that period of time you're exhausted, and then something traumatic may happen to you. Or it can also be that if you've had very traumatic experiences in the past in your childhood, OCD is kind of in its way protecting you. It's like the thing that happened to you in childhood was so awful that we don't want you to think about it. So if I constantly have you thinking about all these other things, then you never actually have to relive what happened to you. And so yeah, it seems to be, it might be its way of trying to keep you safe, but obviously in terms of what it believes to be safe. But I don't see living at home worrying about things like a prisoner to really be safety. I see that as, yeah, being a slave to your mind.
Yeah, I can see where staying isolated would be counterproductive. OCD and anxiety sounds like it could really affect your personal, your personal, your social life, your professional life, and affect you in all aspects of everything you do. If you're just locked up in a house, how are you going to live a full life? Tell me a little bit about your methods of treatment. I was reading on your webpage. We talk a little bit about emotional freedom techniques, EFT.
Yeah. So I begin with teaching people what, in my experience, anxiety and OCD are, because if you don't know what you're dealing with, then you don't know how to counteract all the thoughts that it's offering you, because you may believe them. And it's a process of teaching people to calm down. So instead of having a fast racing dialogue in your head, which is all the time like, what if this happens, what if that happens, my god, what are they going to think of me, I feel so embarrassed about the things that happened in the past. It's just learning to calm down and talk to yourself as if you would like a scared child. You soothe the unconscious mind, just like everything's fine, nothing to worry about. I did the best I could at the time. And the emotional freedom technique is a technique which is very good at breaking the story in your mind and calming yourself down. So eventually I teach people to just be braver, face their fears, and use a exposure and response prevention therapy. But until then, you can use this technique where you tap on different areas of your body and you say like a nice mantra to yourself whilst you're doing it. And it seems to be that there's like an energy flow throughout the body, which is in Chinese medicine, it's like the acupuncture system. So if you tap on these certain places, it kind of interrupts the fight or flight system and recalibrates it into a calmer way of being. So it's kind of like rebooting a computer when it starts to play up. And then from there, yeah, it's all about just finding and changing fearful beliefs or self-limiting beliefs, and learn to live with more courage and stop believing your mind and just take action rather than thinking. So yeah, it's a very holistic approach. It's just, let's do everything we possibly can to change the way you think and behave so you don't have anxiety and OCD anymore. Because I hear a lot of the time people say, how do I manage my anxiety? And it's like, well, do you want to manage it, or do you just want to think and behave differently so that it's not there anymore?
Would you say your technique is a complementary therapy or adjunctive therapy, or could it be considered a primary therapy? It sounds like you used it for yourself as a primary therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% primary therapy, because it's changing everything. It's not just let's teach you to calm yourself down, or like a few techniques where you can still have anxiety but kind of live. It's like, let's get to the root cause of all these issues, sort them out, and then have you live like you're calm and happy. So it's yeah, completely uprooting the core of what the actual issues were, rather than just supplementing something else. Yeah, so it's a pretty big job.
Did we have a we talked a little bit about COVID. Did we have a kind of a did, did that make the situation worse for the general population? Did you see a bump in OCD? I could see definitely how people would be obsessed with hand washing
Mm.
and being remaining isolated as a way of protecting themselves. Did you see a surge in the numbers after the pandemic?
Yeah, so at the time of COVID, I still had OCD, but my OCD was completely unrelated to hygiene, which was funny because a lot of people are very much obsessive with hand washing. And I saw things on Reddit saying like, "Oh, this is my time. I've been woken up to this my whole life. I know how to keep myself clean." Um, but for me, I was just thinking about completely other things. Like COVID didn't concern me in the slightest. I just didn't care about it whatsoever. So I was locked in my house thinking about all of these other things and being a little bit annoyed, being like, why am I locked in my house for something I don't care about? Now, don't get me wrong, I care that like obviously people died and that it did really badly affect people, but because my attention was elsewhere, it wasn't my concern, sort of thing. Obviously that led me into my recovery and then becoming a therapist. But I do have clients who have said that they were they were anxious, but then COVID was the trauma which caused them to be super obsessed with hygiene. So yeah, in general, I do think it had a really negative effect on people's mental health in general.
How, if I were to become a client and I have a severe OCD that is restricting my personal and professional life, and I come to you, what kind of time schedule would we be looking at before I could start seeing some changes in my life?
Mm. I mean, it all depends on the person. I have some people who come to me and they say during the first session, "I know you're going to help me. I've seen what you um, I've seen like your YouTube videos and stuff like that," and they just trust me completely. And then pretty fast, they're like, "Right, cool. I'm starting to see improvements." And you get other people who are just they know they need help, but they're just not quite ready to take the full responsibility for their own recovery. And they'll be like, "Yeah, I kind of like I'm doing what you say, but like the thought of just going up to these things which are contaminated and touching them is just too scary." Um, which I get, but it just means that they've trapped themselves because like fear is controlling their life. Um, if I work with people in person, it's a lot easier because I could take them places, do things, and be with them whilst they start to overcome these fears. Because obviously, having someone they trust next to them will make it a lot easier. But when I have online clients, obviously they do make very good progress, but it's down to them. They need to say, right, I've got to be brave enough to go and do this. So the timescale varies drastically, and um, it the only people who really make a full recovery are the ones who throw themselves in and say, "I'm not going to be a victim to this anymore." But unfortunately, probably at least half of people with anxiety or OCD they just won't do what's needed to really change. So unfortunately, after a while I just had to accept that I can't help someone who won't help themselves. Um, and they're just not my audience, really. I want to work with people who are just like, right, I'm going to do everything I can to fix this. I've had enough. I want to be happy.
Chris contacted me through it online through Reddit. I'd never seen any of your YouTube videos. I didn't know you had any out there. What are your YouTube videos listed under? If I were to go and look for them.
Yeah, Path to Inner Wellness. It's really they're not like very in-depth videos. They're just short animated videos mostly. It was more so just to use as marketing, just to have people see, okay, this guy thinks differently and he's saying things that perhaps my current therapist doesn't say. So it's to just to try and get my name out there, really. Yeah, not got a huge following or anything like that. It was just I just quite enjoyed it and thought let's start making some videos because I like talking.
Well, maybe you don't have a huge following yet.
That's right.
Yet. have have you had people come to you, and I'm sure you have, who have been involved with traditional therapies, including psychotropic drugs and medications that they might prescribe, and then come to you? Uh, do they describe a difference?
Yeah, so people, I quite often have clients that after a couple of sessions talking to them will say, like, I I'm shocked that like my past therapist didn't say these sorts of things. They said that they'll just sit there and listen to the client and say, "So how do you feel? What do you think you'll do about this?" And then they come to me and they say, "Well, you actually tell me like solutions. You give me things that will actually help me think in new ways." Um, and often, yeah, people anti-anxiety medication, but it seems to dampen all emotions, not just anxiety. So I was on them briefly when I was ill. I had a 3-year recovery period after a surgery went wrong, and I was on anti-anxiety, and it was made things better, but it didn't like change the way I thought or behaved. It was just it's kind of like a zombie. I was like, well, I'm not really anxious, but I'm not anything. I'm just like, I felt like a shell of a person. So that, for me, that obviously wasn't a long-term solution. It kind of felt like when the check engine light comes on in your car, and then you just go, oh, I'll just put a sticker over that rather than dealing with the problem. So hey, that's for some people, I'm sure it really does help. If you're really struggling, I know it can take the edge off.
Mostly, I know, like on in my hospital situation, they'll prescribe benzodiazepines for acute anxiety, and I have people in life-threatening situations, and they're having acute anxiety. But I also see it. I'm a recovering person. Sober from drugs and alcohol for like 35 years, and I've seen people not be able to get off of the benzodiazepines. It's a very dangerous drug. It's okay. I think it's okay for short term, but long term, it just makes the problem worse because then
Yeah.
they believe they cannot function without the drug, and they become dependent upon the drug. And it's a dangerous withdrawal too from those types of things. What was your first step for you? What would be somebody's first step if they would say, what's the first step that they need to do in order to start taking control of their life back? And what would you could recommend to them?
The very first step is self-awareness. If you can't see what your mind is doing, you've got no chance of changing it. I that voice that runs in your head, the ego, with all the stories, the opinions, the judgments that I'm right, so they must be wrong, and all of this nonsense. Um, I used to think that like that was me. If someone said like, "What's that voice in your head?" I'd be like, well, obviously it's me. It's my voice talking to me. But after I managed to like separate it and see that if you were to shut your eyes and say, I wonder what the next thought I'm going to have will be, and then you kind of just wait and watch what that thought is going to be, that means that there's one place where the thoughts are coming from, which I think is the subconscious mind. And then the conscious part of you is the bit that can sit there and watch it, the one that's watching the thought come into your mind. Um, and that's the beginning of changing everything. Is if you're lost in your thoughts, then there's no way you can change them. But if you can take a higher perspective and look down on them and be like, this thought isn't me, it's just coming up, like it's just a thought, and then you can start to scrutinize them and change them, and see that they're just the old programming of the mind that we received as children. Unfortunately, my programming was from a very young age to see the world as a scary place. So, but once you can change that, see that, you can start to change it so that the world doesn't look such a scary place. It's actually can be quite a place of great opportunity. So you can reprogram the way you think.
I do a little. It sounds very much. Do you use meditation in your therapy? Because that sounds very much like meditation. If I sit in meditation, and I meditate frequently, and I call it the monkey mind, right? All the thoughts
Mhm.
are just running through. I got to do this. I got to do that. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that, and I'm just observing these thoughts go through my mind. But who is the observer? Am I the thoughts, or am I the observer of these thoughts? Do you use meditation techniques in your therapy?
Yeah, so that's I try and live my life mindfully, so I'm always trying to be in the moment, whatever I'm doing. But I used to do a lot of formal meditation. I've started doing it again, just because I'm in a period of my life where I've got a lot of things changing now. So I'm moving to a new area and things like this. So my brain is offering me sabotaging thoughts to try and stop me doing it. So I've started formal meditation again so that it will quieten them down. But yeah, I don't sit with people and meditate I feel like that's not a good use of my time or their money, but I'll give them resources to go and learn how to meditate. Yeah, different types of meditation as well, like finding traumas from your past and trying to release that energy which had been stored from those experiences that is one of the biggest keys to freedom.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to take that step where you're having those thoughts and you think those thoughts are you, and to separate yourself from those thoughts and say, well that's not me. That's just a
Exactly.
that's just a repetitive thing that's just a repetitive thing that's happening, and
Yeah.
it's a scary step, I think, for people to step away from that.
Yeah.
Chris, uh, we're running on about a half an hour. Would you like to tell people a little bit about how to contact you?
Yeah, so I've my website is pathtoinnerwellness.com. My email address is chris@pathtoinnerwellness.com. You can find me on Instagram under the same name, and I've also got a YouTube channel under Path to Inner Wellness as well. So yeah.
Are you doing seeing clients over the internet like we're chatting now?
Yeah,
Or
I've got clients from a few different countries at the moment. So people have been finding me through things like this and through YouTube, and we've been working together with good success so far.
Well, I hope this little interview brings you some more clients, because I'm all about getting people help so they can lead happy, normal, productive lives. And
Exactly.
that's why I was really happy to talk to you today, Chris.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, Chris. So thank you very much, and we'll stay in contact.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. Been really enjoyable.
And that's my interview with Chris Mason. He was really nice guy. I really enjoyed the interview I had with him. And if you're having issues related to OCD or severe anxiety and are looking for a alternate way to address it, Chris would be the guy to contact. There I am. I wonder if so. There. So today I've got out the regular tarot deck. Free readings are available if you like a free reading. Like I said, I'm not going to address any of the current administration's specific policies or anything, but we do need to know how to survive this. This week I made a little money on crypto, and that's what I thought I would do a little crypto question. And let's take a look at that. If somebody else would like something to talk about, they could post it up there. The chat room is open. So let me read this quick article. I'm not going to read the entire article. Something that caught my eye this morning. President Donald Trump solidified his pro-crypto stance in an executive order on Thursday, saying his administration will support the growth and use of digital assets and blockchain technology. Ooh, that's a fancy mouthful. The executive order delivers multiple major wins for crypto by directing the government to develop a clear regulatory framework for the industry and explore the creation of a national digital asset stockpile. The executive order established a so-called President's Working Group on Digital Assets Markets to be chaired by Special Advisor for AI and Crypto David Sachs, joined by other top-ranking members of the government, including chairs of the SEC and CFTC. In another highly anticipated move, Trump's executive order directs the group to explore the creation of a national digital asset stockpile without directly establishing one. The order instructs the group to propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile, potentially for delivered from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its lawful enforcement efforts. So he wants to seize illegal stockpiles of crypto where people have stolen it and they have taken possession of it and throw that into the stockpile. Trump has been a vocal supporter of a federal Bitcoin reserve to hedge against inflation. Proponents of the move say it would be legitimize cryptocurrency as a store of value and drive up its price. So like I said, I made a little money on crypto this week, and as I look at Bitcoin and the other one, what's the other one I have? XRP. And they've been high now ever since Trump has taken office. They've been high. I bought some at 92,000, and then I sold it when it hit 105. And it's been, I'm talking about Bitcoin now. It's been hovering about 104, 105, and hasn't gone down again. I'm waiting for it to go down before I buy it again. And so the question is for me as well as for anybody else: how will the new administration affect crypto in February? All right, this is a generalized question about crypto. How will the new administration? Oh, I'm running late already. How will the new administration affect crypto prices in February? How about that for a question? And I think I'll just do 3 cards. I got the regular tarot deck, and we'll throw that. Oh, isn't it just the way it is? Let me see here. My there we go. My camera froze up. I had to reset it. My ability to read tarot, is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. It doesn't really matter. I only read them face up anyway. And then I'll throw a couple of runes. How will the new administration affect crypto prices in the month of February? I have to narrow it down, or else it gets too broad. And because I'm looking to make a little extra money, I hope you're looking to make a little extra money. I can't change the way things are going, who's in office and what they do. But I can make a little money. How will the new administration's policies affect crypto in the next month? And we'll just do 3 cards. How will the new administration's policies affect crypto in the next 3 months? Quick reading. I was running too late with this new format. How will the new administration's policies affect crypto in the next 3 months? In the month of February, excuse me. Cut 3 cards. See what we get. Ace of Wands. Four of Cups. Let me know what you like better. How you like that? The 3 of Cups. Let me know what you like better, this or the electronic deck. You can see how I use the electronic deck. Odin, Freya, please help guide this reading. How will the new administration policies affect crypto in the next 3 months? Ace of Wands, 4 of Cups, and the 3 of Cups for the Ace of Wands. This one is called Iwas. And for the 4 of Cups, this one is called Kenu. Put them down there. And the 3rd rune, all right, Jera. So this is the Ace of Wands. This is a new administration, new growth. This is like kind of the past, new growth, new opportunities. Also has to do with male fertility there. Fertility. So it's a new growth. It's a new administration. It's a new start. And we're gonna be some new changes that are happening. The rune Iwas. It has to do with transformations. How interesting is that? So there's going to be we have a new administration. There's going to be new growth, new changes, and then we're going to have some transformations. How you like that? That's how it. And that is what's happening like right now in January. It's interesting. And then at this exact moment, I'm sitting there looking, wondering if crypto is going to go up. There's me with the 4 cups. I'm a little disappointed. Come on. Well, come on. When's going to be a time to buy in and make a little extra money? And I'm a little disappointed. There's going to be more surprises. It looks like there's going to be more opportunities to make a little money. You see the hand coming out of the clouds with a cup in his hand. And then the rune is called Canu, and that has to do with new light, light being exposed on a subject. It also has to do with that's the biggest thing for it. A portal out of the dark into the light. A good luck. How you like that? So. Looks like crypto is going to be a good investment. To keep your eye on it, watch for opportunities, and this is a lesson I learned here in the last month. The 3 of Cups, mind, body, and spirit. You got to remain calm during all this. You've got to rejoin all the mind, body, and spirit. Don't be drawn into this. Crypto is very volatile. It goes up, it goes down, and you've got to remain centered. The 3 of Cups, you got to remain centered through all that. And if you remain centered and you make your buys wisely, the Jira has to do with it has to do with it has to do with planting of a seed and fruition of the seed growing, and look at this whole thing as an investment, and the seed growing and coming to fruition, and you'll make a little money. But you have to remain centered. Don't get jerked around by the fluctuations in the market. So if I had to look at this new administration, there's some transformations taking place. I'm a little disappointed, and I'm waiting for new opportunities, but they're coming right behind me. I just haven't seen them yet. A little light will be poured on this subject, and where I'll be able to make a decision. And I need to remain calm, remain centered, because this is more like the seed, harvesting of the seed. So there is opportunity there to make money. Just be calm. Wait for the new information to be advised. And then make your investments. I have a couple investments. I'm waiting for them. Maybe I set them too low. I have to. I have them on what they call list, so that when crypto drops to a certain point, that I make my buy, and I'm not going to be influenced by the fluctuations in the market. I think I'm just going to leave my investments just the way they sit. We'll leave my listings just the way they set at the boundaries I set them at. And when crypto drops to a certain level, it's automatically going to make a buy. And these determinations need to be made by you as an individual. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Well, it was my pleasure. I will join you again next week. If you need to contact me, I'm on JohnsTarot.net, and you can send me an email from there, or you can leave me a message on any of the places that you get my podcast from, and I'll get in contact with you about any of the things we talked about today. So until next week, be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, have faith, find courage, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Have a great week, and I'll see you all again.